Ritz, I think that the opening quote is fine, although I think you need to practice it a little bit more and tell us a little bit more about the source that you have. There's a good setup of what the content is going to be, so all the organizational stuff is pretty good, although your second point, I think it kind of got buried in there. When you got to the third point, I thought that you had a much clearer signpost on that particular issue. Probably through the first two-thirds of the speech, it sounds like a refutation argument. In other words, you're challenging the opponents on the other side and the claims that they're making without necessarily giving us a reason to believe that marijuana ought to be legal. You're mostly telling us the reasons why it doesn't really need to be illegal. And I think that your argument needs to be a little bit stronger than that. In the last third of the speech, you finally get to a couple of issues that are relevant to that. One is the issue of revenue and potential revenue enhancement by legalization, and the other is decreasing the influence of the cartels. Well, the revenue argument you develop a little bit. The cartel argument is mostly just presented as an afterthought, and I think that those are your two most affirmative arguments, and they had the least amount of information supporting them. I did think that you did a good job trying to minimize the impact of marijuana as a particularly dangerous drug, and I thought you had some good information on that. You were pretty consistent about citing that, although it does sometimes seem like it's a little bit conclusionary. It's coming from like a general source that does an evaluation of the research, and it is not research itself that found this result, but rather you're quoting somebody else who's quoting the research, and so it's not necessarily as convincing as, for instance, any of those sources that didn't find those results. I think you could have quoted them more affirmatively and strengthened the proof on your particular claim. On the presentation issues, I kind of agree. I thought that you got better as you went along with your audience contact, a little bit more involved while you were talking to us. At the beginning it was tough. I was worried that you weren't really going to talk to us. You did better at that. I still think that you're a little more script dependent than you want to be at this point, and sometimes the familiarity is a little bit problematic, but you did a nice job using the time. The summary quote was a little confusing because I think that you read it differently the first time out, and then you say it differently in the summary, so that needs to be clarified so that we know at the end of the speech exactly the position that you're taking. Although we know what the policy is that you're advocating, that point was a little confusing. All right, thank you.